We first go to this one. To give you a little bit of background, if you think Donald Trump is the flash in the pan, and it was never planned like this, and he's really turning the apple cart upside down, then perhaps you should think again. Because there has never been a president that hasn't been the president before he was the president. Let me put it that way.
Right now, Christians are professing that prophecy is in the making, as an Israeli organization has started to mint coinage, which displays a 70-year fulfillment of Israel. It represents the gathering of Israel together again, giving all glory to Trump's image, which is in front of King Cyrus on the front of the coin, and a rebuilt third temple on the back. The coin itself, paired with the current geopolitical state of affairs, is shocking, as it indeed represents that we are on the verge of a cataclysmic period in time, known as the end times. However, one specific aspect of this coin caught my attention. That is, the image of Donald Trump on the front, paired with the symbol of peace, a dove, on the back. It reminded me that before Donald Trump was elected president, he was referred to as Donald the Dove. Why is that? Well, back in 1983, a well-known photographer named William Coupon had photographed him with a dove when he was at the pinnacle of his career. But what did Donald Trump have to do with a dove that would warrant this picture? While it's difficult to find, William Coupon is on record, at least twice, stating that the photo shoot was for a Manhattan Inc. magazine edition. He states on Time.com, quote, "I shot Donald Trump twice. This is my favorite." Trump was offering his services as a peace negotiator between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Later on Tao Style, he writes, he, Donald Trump, was 32 years old when I took that photograph in 1983. He was attempting to, independently, negotiate an agreement between the Israelis and Palestinians at that time. So when the news first broke in the Trump presidency that he would try to attempt Middle East peace, it took many by surprise. Many thought that this was Trump being flamboyant, that he would, even recklessly, display how he is the chief negotiator by trying to tackle Middle East peace. However, many do not realize that this has been on Trump's mind for a very, very long time. Over 35 years, to be exact. While many think that Trump happened to grab the presidency by happenstance, just due to a cascade of events in the geopolitical sphere, many peculiar things tell us otherwise. For one, there has been some predictive programming of a Trump presidency via cartoons, as with the Simpsons episode in 2000 called Bart to the Future, or this eerily accurate heavy metal cartoon called The Wall by Peter Cooper from July 1990, which even foretells of a Trump wall. But even more disturbing is Trump's direct integration with the White House back in the early 1980s, which relates back to the photo of the dove I showed before. The photo was used in this Manhattan Inc. magazine edition entitled Donald Trump's Ultimate Deal. In this magazine, Donald tells us how he can solve nuclear arms proliferation across the world. What's shocking about this article, as I mentioned prior, is that Trump states that he has been in close talks with the White House ever since the early 80s, as well as his plan with which he would disarm the world. In referencing to his intertwining with the White House, he states, "I'm dealing at a very high level on this," he said, with people in Washington, in the White House. There was too much at stake for him to risk the wrong kind of exposure on the subject being nuclear proliferation. In summary, he states, referring to the rest of the world outside US and Russia, most of those pre-nuclear countries are in one form or another dominated by the US and Soviet Union. Between those two nations, you have the power to dominate any of those other countries. So we should use our power of economic retaliation and they use their powers of retaliation, and between the two of us, we will prevent the problem from happening. So Trump's solution is a partnership with Russia to subdue other countries from obtaining nuclear arms. Other than teaming up with Russia, what were his specific plans? Well, he states, again, referring to the other countries, maybe we should offer them something. I'm saying you start off nicely as possible. You apply as much pressure as necessary until you achieve the goal. You start off telling them, let's get rid of it. If that doesn't work, you start cutting off aid, and then more. You do whatever is necessary so these people will have riots in the street, so they can't get water, so they can't get band-aids, so they can't get food, because that's the only thing that's going to do it. The people, the riots. Trump is so bold in this interview that he even declares sanctions against allies like France, since they have the nuclear bomb. He states they've got the bomb, but they don't have it now with the delivery capability they will have in 5 years. If they don't give it up, and I don't mean reduce it, and I don't mean stop, because stopping doesn't mean anything. I mean get it out. If they didn't, I would bring sanctions against that country that would be so strong, so unbelievable, end quote. So these are the thoughts of Donald Trump 35 years ago, that he was already entwined in the White House, that he was already attempting Middle East peace, and that, at least in reference to nuclear disarmament, he is prepared to work with Russia to subdue the rest of the world into riots by massive sanctions and other means. Well, isn't it interesting then that 35 years ago from these statements, Donald Trump is pursuing Middle East peace, that he is being investigated for a variety of collusions with Russians, and also publicly states that the two should moderate the Israeli-Palestinian peace, that just as he was prepared to bring massive sanctions on France 35 years ago, that he states today he will sanction European allies if they continue to deal with Iran in the nuclear Iran deal. So it seems to me that 1, Trump and perhaps the elites have been grooming Trump for this event for nearly 4 decades. And 2, his thoughts of the past seem to be reflective of what he is actively doing right now.
Here's another interview. I don't think I'm going to play it because it's a bit long. It's just interesting to me that Oprah Winfrey asks him about his status and whether he will ever run for president. He says no, he doesn't think so, but if he does, he's going to win. And he's a juvenile there. And what does he say? Exactly what the other one says. He says it out of his mouth. He will force the countries, and he will bring such sanctions on other countries and bring the economies in line and do all of those things that he's doing. This is an agenda that's been coming a long, long time. They have finally come to the point where their plan is going global. That's where we are. And when it goes global, because the beast, did he go to the Vatican? What was he dressed like? In black. What was his wife dressed like? And all those with him, what were they dressed in? Black. This is a game. And if they think they can dupe us into believing that it's not a game, then I'm surprised. Secretive Bilderberg meeting draws Pompeo and Kushner. Well, if he's such an outsider, what are they doing with the Bilderbergers? Trump, if no Israel-Palestinian deal during my presidency, it'll never happen. What if he brings about this peace? What if he brings about the uniform economic social order? What if he brings about religious peace and forces all the people to accept this global common good? And then the nationalism goes and everything is set in place. U.S. North Korea, Trump and Kim agreed to restart talks in historic meeting. He's doing all of these things which previous presidents found unbelievable. His maximum pressure strategy stokes fear of war. And at the same time, the Pope, trolling Trump, donates $500,000 to help migrants try to reach the US. They look like enemies, don't they? They are not. They are playing a game with your mind. That is what they are doing. Jesuit chief, no country has the right to turn away migrants. This is the boss speaking. The Superior General of the Jesuits declared this week that no country has the right to turn away migrants. Will you look at the date, please? 24th of August, 2019. The White House is tearing down the wall between church and state. We've been waiting for this for years. We don't even have to read it. The very meaning of the phrase religious liberty and religious freedom, traditionally understood as referring to the right of Americans to practice whatever faith they wish or no faith at all, is being altered to mean that government should foster a closer relationship with those who want to mix their Christian faith with taxpayers' dollars. Religion-related issues, especially if buried in lengthy government documents, can often seem obscure. Yes, they're the masters at writing obscurely, that you don't understand what they are saying. While it is impossible to overstate the long-term importance of the next court appointments, Mr. Sessions and many of his fellow cabinet members offer textbook examples of the everyday perils of entangling religion and politics. So they're arguing against it, but they've lost the cause already. It was left to secular organization to identify all religion rationalization as the fundamental problem. And the separation of church and state means that we don't base public policy on the Bible or any religious book. Here's an interesting one. Jeff Sessions announces a religious liberty task force to combat dangerous secularism. So they have organizations in place to make sure that you adhere to the common good. We have gotten to the point, he said, where courts have held that morality cannot be a basis for law, where ministers are fearful to affirm, as they understand it, Holy Writ from the pulpit, and where one group can actively target religious group by labeling them hate group on the basis of their sincerely held religious beliefs. You may have your religious beliefs. We're going to see to it, provided they comply to the common good. What if the common good says you must go to church on Sunday? What then? Religious liberty definitions have been expanding over the years. Jesuit to remain as House Chaplain in the new Congress. So this is the House Chaplain of the Democrats. He's a Jesuit. And what is he? He's a liberal Jesuit. A Jesuit who former Speaker of the House, Representative Paul Ryan, sought to oust. He's a liberal. What does he stand for? He's pro-LGBT. His other Jesuit friends are anti. And yet they swear a common oath. Does that make any sense? How can one propagate one issue and the other one propagate against it? This is Hegelian dialectic. This is exactly what it is. They are making fools of society. Rise of the religious left. DNC hires faith outreach director to address the party's God problem. You see, they've now been so anti-God that something has to be done. God has to be incorporated. Otherwise, they're going to be history. So it doesn't really matter who's going to win. It doesn't matter whether the Democrats win or whether the Republicans win. That's not the issue. Common good is the issue. Rise of the religious left. DNC hires faith outreach, just another source to show that it's not a flash in the pan. And then Fox News says the whole rebellion against King George was based on the immutable laws of God. This country was founded on Judeo-Christian principles. Where are we going? Do you remember the video clip in yesterday's video in The Fall of Babylon Part 1? What did Angus Buchan say? We are going to implement what? The Ten Commandments. That's a global issue. Here you have the same issue. It was based on the what? The immutable law of God. Which law? The biblical one or the papal one? That's what we have to ask ourselves. So the Democrats are surrounded by the Jesuits, and who is this man surrounded by? What is this man? What is that man? What is that man? And what are these crosses they are wearing around their necks? Well, this one's wearing that one, and this one is wearing that one. This one is a Marian one. Well, let's make this one a little bit clearer. It's an exact copy of what the Pope wears. Now, why would he wear it? Why would he wear this cross? With a man standing like this, who happens to be a Cyrus. Well, let's have a look at the Scottish Rite Journal, 33-degree Scottish Rite Journal. An X is an ancient symbol for change or transformation, long associated in medieval and Renaissance art with the coming of the Messiah who shall make all things new. Which Messiah are they waiting for? They're not waiting for mine. And the Bible tells us that he will appear as an angel of light and he will impersonate Jesus Christ. We are on the edge of stupendous movements, and this Pope has chosen this cross to show that now is the time. And the people standing behind Donald Trump are wearing that same cross. And the opposite Hegelian Jesuit is standing with the Democrats. It doesn't matter which one wins. This is just a game. The time is not far distant when the test will come to every soul. The observance of the false Sabbath will be urged upon us. The contest will be between the commandments of God and the commandments of men. Those who have yielded step by step to worldly demands and conformed to worldly customs, which include sport and other things, will then yield to the powers that be rather than subject themselves to derision, insult, threatening, imprisonment, and death. Can you see it on the horizon, yes or no?